The White House gets set for a 4th of July celebration with their version of fireworks. The party on the lawn and in the skies later today over the passage of the big beautiful bill and who's going. Plus, very disappointed. That's how President Trump terms his phone call with Russia's Putin. Why this morning things appear to be status quo on the war with Ukraine and what Trump is going to do next. And from bad to worse, he lost a boxing match to Jake Paul last week, and now he will likely be deported. Why the son of Julio Cesar Chavez is getting kicked out of the United States.
The stories that matter, clear and credible, from across the country to around the world. These are your unbiased updates from Straight Arrow News.
Good morning, I'm Craig DeGrelli. The White House is gearing up for a big celebration this afternoon and evening, and not just because it's Independence Day. With the House passage of President Donald Trump's big, beautiful budget and spending bill just in time for the July 4th deadline, the president says they will be pulling out all the stops as he signs the bill into law with a lot of pomp and circumstance.
And at about 5 o'clock, we're going to have B-2s and F-22s and F-35s flying right over the White House. And the Speaker and I and John Thune were all there together with most Republican senators and congressmen and women. And it's going to be a great day. So we'll be signing with those beautiful planes flying right over our heads.
At nearly 900 pages, the bill includes everything from tax breaks and spending cuts to new money for national defense and immigration enforcement. But perhaps the most controversial changes are to Medicaid and the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, once called food stamps. Straight Arrow News Washington correspondent Ray Bogan explains.
Ask a Republican and they'll tell you these are important reforms to cut down on waste, fraud, and abuse. Democrats say it's cruel and people will die because they can't get coverage. So what does the bill really say? The SNAP and Medicaid work requirements are nearly identical. To qualify, individuals between the ages of 18 and 65 must work, volunteer, or participate in a work program for 20 hours per week. They may also be enrolled in school on a half-time basis. There are exceptions for the parents of caregivers of children 13 and under, Indians, those who have a disability, a serious medical condition, or are pregnant.
This disgusting abomination, the GOP tax scam, that guts Medicaid, rips food from the mouths of children, seniors, and veterans, and rewards billionaires with massive tax breaks.
Now, if you choose not to work, if tomorrow you say, you know what, I'm going to get free health care from the government, I'm just not going to work anymore. No, you're not going to get free health care from the government. You're going to actually have to work if you're able-bodied without dependents. So look, that rhetoric is just false. I mean, I can't use any other word. Fact of the matter is, no hardworking American is going to lose their health care.
The CBO predicted approximately 17 million people would lose their health care over the next 10 years due to the reforms in the bill. They said of those 17 million, 4.8 million would be able-bodied adults between the ages of 19 and 64 with no children who do not meet the work requirements. 1.4 million would be individuals who don't meet the citizenship requirements, and 2.2 million would become uninsured due to the other provisions, like more frequent verifications on eligibility. If someone in your district came to you and said, I think that my Medicaid care has been reduced because of this bill, what would your response be to them?
Well, the first thing we do is go and make sure that they're not mistaken, right? Because a lot of false information out there about how these cuts impact people. So the first thing I would do is the case work that we do all the time, and that's make sure people get the benefits that they deserve.
What would you say to somebody if they look at the changes to Medicaid and SNAP and they say, I actually agree with work requirements? What would your response be?
Well, it takes me about 3 hours to get to the Arkansas border from DFW, and so we already know what happened in Arkansas when they put these so-called work requirements in, that it led to a healthcare catastrophe in that state. And when you look at a state the size of Texas, it's only going to be worse.
Congressman Vesey is referring to work requirements in Arkansas that led to 18,000 people losing their coverage, but no increase in employment.
Straight Arrow News Washington correspondent Ray Bogan reporting. Under the big, beautiful bill, states must come up with their own work requirements that align with federal guidelines and implement them by January of 2027. Now to the war in Ukraine. Russia launching another massive aerial attack overnight. If that sounds familiar, it should. Russian bombardment keeps getting bigger and bigger. Ukraine's military says the Kremlin launched 550 drones and missiles across the country. Ukrainian President Zelensky, in a post on X, said the capital of Kyiv was the primary target. Zelensky also said the attacks notably came just after President Trump had a call with Russian President Putin to discuss a potential ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. It was a call that President Trump said didn't make any progress.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed with the conversation I had today with President Putin because I don't think he's there. I don't think he's there. And I'm very disappointed. Well, it's not, I'm just saying, I don't think he's looking to stop.
President Trump says he will have a call and talk with Zelensky this morning. It comes on the heels of the United States pausing some shipments of military aid to Ukraine as part of a reassessment ordered by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. The United States is now concerned about America's dwindling stockpiles of weapons due to increasing global threats. The Trump administration is now deploying 200 U.S. Marines to Florida to help immigration and customs enforcement. This comes as the first ICE detainees arrive Thursday at the detention facility known as Alligator Alcatraz. Construction just began on the $450 million facility, which consists of tents and trailers surrounded by razor wire on swampland. The facility is a repurposed training airport in the Everglades that was recently seized by the state from Miami-Dade County. The military did not specify whether the Marines will be sent to Alligator Alcatraz. According to U.S. Northern Command, they will, quote, perform strictly non-law enforcement duties within ICE facilities, focusing primarily on administrative and logistical tasks, and are prohibited from direct contact with individuals in ICE custody. The U.S. Supreme Court has delivered a victory to the Trump administration when it comes to the deportation of 8 migrants to South Sudan. The High Court reversed a federal court judge's decision that stopped the administration from sending the migrants who have been convicted of crimes in the United States to South Sudan. They were on a flight to the African nation in May when a judge in Massachusetts halted it. The Supreme Court ruled that immigration officials can deport people to so-called third countries where they are not from. The flight stopped at the Horn of Africa and did not make it to South Sudan. Instead, the deportees were housed in a former shipping container. Homeland Security says the trip will now continue to South Sudan. Immigration officials claim the migrants will be subjected to imprisonment and torture there. A former boxing champ now facing deportation and cartel allegations just days after getting beat in a high-profile bout. ICE arrested Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., son of Mexico's most iconic fighter, in Los Angeles just days after he lost to Jake Paul. Federal officials say Chavez overstayed a tourist visa, lied on his 2024 green card application, and has ties to the Sinaloa cartel, now labeled a foreign terrorist organization by the Trump administration. He's also wanted in Mexico on charges of organized crime and weapons trafficking. Despite being flagged as a public safety threat, records show he re-entered the United States earlier this year under Biden-era parole policies. ICE agents arrested him this week outside his home in California. He now faces expedited removal. His attorney calls the allegations outrageous, and his family insists he's innocent. But as one senior official put it, no one is above the law. Finally this morning, President Trump loves the UFC, and the fans as well as the fighters often give him a hero's welcome. Now the White House is kicking off a year-long celebration leading up to the 250th anniversary of America's independence that will possibly culminate with a UFC event at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. In Des Moines, Iowa, the president said he's considering hosting a UFC card on the White House grounds as part of the celebrations. Trump is a longtime friend of UFC CEO Dana White. White even spoke at the Republican National Convention. Here's what's in the works.
We're going to have a UFC fight. We're going to have a UFC fight. Think of this, on the grounds of the White House. We have a lot of land there. We're going to build a little, we're not. Dana's going to do it. Dana's great, one of a kind. Going to have a UFC fight, championship fight, full fight, like 20, 25,000 people. And we're going to do that as part of 250 also.
Specific details still have to be worked out. They obviously have time. Now, before we go, it's Independence Day, and I figured I'd ask you to think about one of your favorite or most memorable 4th of July experiences. For me, I go all the way back to 1976. It was the bicentennial, and our family went to see the fireworks at Academy Park in Lewiston, New York, which is just a few miles from Niagara Falls, to mark the nation's 150th birthday. And that year, the government issued bicentennial coins. We love to collect them. So I looked in my coin collection this week, and take a look. I found a silver dollar and a half dollar. Bicentennial coins with the dates 1776-1976 on them. They might be worth something, but I'm keeping them. Great memories for me, for sure. Those are your unbiased updates for this Friday. Happy 4th of July. Have a fun and safe holiday. We'll see you back here on Monday. My voice is given out. For all of us here at Straight Arrow News, I'm Craig DeGrelli. Trust me, I am. I'll see you on Monday.